Um, this is crazy. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin Falk, LSU legend, three-time Super Bowl winner. Um, we're going to go through all the accolades, all the accomplishments, but it wasn't just him alone. There's so many great people along there with his journey, and it's just an incredible story. But it all begins here with you being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame this past fall, Kevin. I'd kind of love to know how that experience was, and what was the best part of that entire Hall of Fame experience for you?
I think the best part was getting the actual notification, like that you're being inducted. You don't know nothing. You get a letter in the mail, and it's from the NFF, and you're like, what the hell is the NFF? And you open it up, and I started reading it, and it was like, wow. I think one part was working at LSU over the past few years and passing by that board every day of the college football inductees. It has been on my mind more, but to actually get that notification like last year was probably farthest from my mind, really, because people, they don't usually get in there until after a long amount of time of being out of the game. And I haven't been out of the game for that long. In my mind, yes, it has been a long time, but in that aspect of it, I haven't been long. And to get that call, it was like, wow, okay. My mom always told me, you do something good, they'll always remember. The right people will remember.
Well, I mean, look at that right down there. I mean, SEC record, LSU record, one after another. I think you're probably the only Tiger I can think of that threw a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, returned both a punt and a kick with touchdowns. I mean, like, you scored in every way feasibly possible. Um, your career speaks for itself. But really, I want to take you back to the first, Kevin, because the first thing I'm curious about when I think about you and your abilities, your personality, everything about you, your God-given charisma, intangibles you were born with. But was there someone who helped you develop your game at a really young age?
Um, all athletes have natural talent that God gives them. It's for them to enhance it in whatever way or form or fashion that may be. Um, my middle school coach, Billy McCauley, I'm not going to say he enhanced my talent, but he, and not just me, it's a lot of athletes that came to the Campbell Middle area that just instilled discipline, hard work. Um, don't question it. Respecting your elders. And that's where it all started.
City League. He was 9.
And we had coach tell us that one day.
And that's where it all started at, just to actually understand the respectfulness, which is being lost in this world so much right now. People don't respect people no more. But like I said, it started there, and then when I got to high school, it was, I got the ball in my hand every play, so that was really, something that I felt good about, in control of the game and everything. And my high school coach, just enhanced my ability, sending me to different camps where I can, showcase my talents.
Right there, Karen Crow, my man. I mean, a lot is made of what you did with LSU, SEC, and your college football records that you broke. But in Louisiana, there's a lot more importance, it seems, placed on just the influence you had, the power your commitment had, the career you had at the time. You've always been on the record saying there was never a second thought. You were staying in Louisiana. But what was like the most enticing offer you received from another school?
Uh, I'm not gonna say I was like staying in Louisiana, but there was a point in the recruiting process where I knew I wasn't leaving, and that was when my daughter was born, my oldest daughter. So that was kind of when I knew. But Florida was the other team that I was really thinking about going with Coach Spurrier and his offensive mind, and catching the ball out of the backfield. But God does everything for a reason. And anything that I do, I always ask God to show me, give me the right
Wow.
direction.
So sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, I just always ask God to guide me and show me the direction. Anything that can give me a direction and show me. And at that point in time, it was my oldest daughter being born, and I knew I couldn't go too far away from home for that.
Florida. Wow. I mean that's kind of something I thought, because of Spurrier, the power of that offense at that time and the reputation they had. There was a lot of guys from Louisiana going there. That was kind of something in the back of my head there when I was thinking of that question. But that is all, never a second thought there. I don't think many people know, but you weren't necessarily a running back in high school at Renfro. you were you were you were an option quarterback. Your coach was just smart and was just put the ball in his hands, just every play, just immediately. Did playing that kind of run first quarterback position rather than just a running back standing back there from a different angle, running the football from a different angle, did that help your vision down the road, you think, Kevin?
Oh, definitely. And I'm not just saying my vision for running the ball. I think my vision for recognizing coverages, understanding coverages from the quarterback position. Because, yes, I did run the ball a whole lot, but I had to understand what the coverage was just in case I might have had to, change the play and go the opposite way. So understanding what the coverage was, helped me out a whole lot further down the line, especially when I got to New England. And, if you know what the quarterback knew, you probably was good. So that was my thing in New England. You know what Tom Brady knows, you gonna be all right. And I knew pretty much everything that he knew when he was going to check, knew what to look for, why we check the plays, just to be ahead.
I mean, have you seen some of these plays before? Right.
Oh, 1,000 times, 1,000 times over.
I mean, just some of these are just silly, Kevin. I mean, just some of these are just silly. I am.
Crazy thing is, I still put them in before every football season.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Look at this right here, right here. This is my favorite.
Crazy thing, I think we lost that game.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my! He almost got you. Almost got you.
Yeah, I think we lost that game.
I know you're not a boastful man, Kevin. I mean, you're very selfless. But were you consciously aware at that time about what kind of influence your commitment to LSU could have just in helping LSU recruit or retain top prospects in the state?
Not even, not even close. But hey, like I told you earlier, when Mom always told me, you do something, it's gonna come back tenfold. You gonna understand why. And those are that was one of the big ones. Especially when you hear some of your former teammates that actually came to LSU the same year as you, your Booger McFarland's, your Herb Tyler's, your Rondell Mealy's, that tell you like, man, if you wouldn't have signed on that line, we wasn't coming. If you wouldn't have signed to LSU, we wasn't coming. So to hear that, however many years later, that's like, wow, thank you guys.
Wow. I mean, you say Rondell Mealy, and people are thinking, well, that guy was just a backup. He's also like 10th on the all-time rushing list to LSU as your backup, which is just that's some silly stuff. So I mean, those guys, Cecil Collins, all those guys. I mean, in your mind, which Louisiana recruit from the '90s, from that mid '90s period, hurt the most to see leave the state?
Ooh, Ed Reed.
Yes.
Ed Reed. But Ed, that was one of Rondell's best of friends, and Ed was different. Ed was one of those guys that wanted to go see the world, experience, and get away from home.
Okay. So he had no problem leaving the state. He that was something that was actually calling to him, to leave the state.
Ed, as we see now, Ed is a strong-minded person. Ed has always been a strong-minded person, and he had a different perspective about everything, different than what we had, and
And
you understood that.
and one of the best to ever play his
Oh,
position, man. Ooh.
tell me about it. College, NFL.
Growing up watching that man punish people. Wow. The silencer. Him, Brian Dawkins. I mean, what an era for safeties. Sean Taylor.
Smart guy, very, very intelligent guy back there.
Right, but the man who recruited you at LSU, I don't think he gets enough credit as well. I mean, this guy, he earned your commitment with a lot of just elbow grease. I mean, Jerry DiNardo, a man who doesn't get a lot of credit around the fan base. For the younger generations who don't really know much or anything about DiNardo, and I'm going to put some footage of him in here um, for us and for the
Okay.
people to check him
Baton
out. But
Rouge.
for the people who don't really know Jerry DiNardo, what kind of coach was Coach DiNardo?
All right. He's an Italian. That's all I can tell you. He's an Italian. So apply all the Italian rules to who he is as a person.
He's an Italian.
Very firm. Very, this is what I want. This is what I expect. This is how I expect it. Family oriented, as all Italians are. Wasn't a favorite by a lot of people, even including players. But he got them to play, even if it was whatever. But it all started way before Donato with me. The first Coach Hallman's coaching staff, just how they knew they were getting fired, but they maintained their loyalty to LSU as far as recruiting guys to come to LSU. And that's one thing I really watched and seen with that regime. But as always, LSU always has a lot of turnover where there's a lot of people that's still there whenever Coach Hallman left, which was a lot of people. When Coach Hallman left, they still had a lot of people there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's You know what I'm saying? So that's some of the thing I really loved about LSU, the family oriented, just how everybody was family, not just with the football team, the basketball team, the baseball team, the girls basketball team. Everybody was, they was cool. It was like a family. And that was one thing that it was hard to pass up, especially when a new part of my family was coming into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is you weren't you weren't even the only awesome running back at LSU in that era. With there was such a group of a fraternity of awesome players. I mean, there was even not even just in football, but then you had like Shaq was from just a little bit earlier generation, but still kind of that era. Just a lot of great players at LSU at the time. You had Cecil Collins and Rondell Mealy, Cecil the Diesel, as they called him for a while there. I mean, how do you think the collective talent in that room at LSU like made you? Do you think it made you become a better player, and how do you think that happened?
You ain't had no choice but to become a better player. So you had Kendall Cleveland, Rondell Mealy, Kevin Falk, Cecil Collins. And when I first got in, you had Robert Toomer, Jermaine Sharp that was there as well. So you ain't got no choice but to get better. Anthony Skinner, no choice but to get better. Crazy part, most of us was together last weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. But the crazy part is, and we had this discussion. He wasn't there, so he couldn't get in on the discussion. But we had a discussion. We all put that up. Well, except for one person, we all said that Cecil Collins probably was the best one in the room, and there was only one other person that said that I was. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes.
Very, very, very competitive. But I mean, that room was absolutely lit. But this is at a time, I mean, you're competing for reps and everything, going in there as a freshman with a lot of pressure on your back to bring the magic back. But people are kind of forgetting that as a forget being a football player. As a person, you had 2 children, and already had a child, as a freshman at LSU immediately, but 2 children, I think, as a junior or sophomore at LSU.
Sophomore.
Sophomore. I mean, how difficult was that I'm a new father myself. How difficult was that as a new father to be playing with all that pressure, all the demands children bring, but like in that environment with that all of that pressure on you in the mid 90s?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Thank God for being a kid and having parents.
Yes.
I was still a kid at the time, not understanding the aspects, but my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, my mom, dad, her mom, stepdad, they all helped out. LSU, they allow a lot of things after practice. A lot of times after practice, I was driving back to campus, sleeping at home, and driving back to Baton Rouge the next morning for study hall. So it was just some of those things that you let them know what's going on, and okay, just be careful.
Man, you had to grow up fast though, Kevin. Like I mean talking like it hit you quick.
Well, if you don't grow up, it's gonna pass you by. So you gotta grow up. That's one thing my mom told me. You gotta grow up in every aspect of life, no matter what it is.
Especially when you got these children all of a sudden who depend. I mean, just the sense of responsibility with my kid. It's such a crazy thing, man. Such a crazy thing and then to think of your position. Um, I know Kayshawn Booty went through something similar this last fall at LSU, and I was kind of wondering how he was going to deal. You seem to really just excel at LSU, just excel one season after another. I know you said you had help, but it's still quite an accomplishment in my mind. But a lot is made of what you accomplish as the SEC's all-time leader in yards. But I mean, as you pointed out time and time again, like there's so many unsung guys like blocking for you, such as you had an awesome offensive line, I think, in the mid '90s. Alan Faneca, NFL Hall of Famer,
Right.
Adam Perry, Ben Bordelon, Todd McClure, and then even the fullback Tommy Banks. Just what made that line, and Tommy Banks as well. What made that line just one of the strengths of the team during that era?
Oh, they were together. Those guys were together. Those guys were best friends. They knew what made each other tick. They knew what made each other boom. Uh, they knew each other. They understood each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses, as well as us, like the running backs. We understood where we could go, which guy we needed to have set up to help his block out. And that's all a part of just knowing who's blocking for you and understanding them as who they are and them understanding us as runners, because it was different whenever I was in the game compared to whenever Rondell was in the game compared to whenever Steve was in the game.
Absolutely. I mean, yes.
Sorry about
Kevin, he's back. Yes.
Sorry about that, man.
No, never apologize, Kevin. This is amazing. We are so grateful to you for talking to us. This is fantastic. I just this was a program that hadn't been ranked in the top 10 when you joined, Kevin.
Right.
I mean, I don't think people even get that. There's 21st century fans, a lot of guys, who were born year 2000, 2001, who don't really even understand where LSU were in the mid 90s after Curly Hallman, like you were bringing up, dropping his name earlier. I mean, 6 straight losing seasons until your rival. But by the end of your freshman year, you guys had brought that magic back. I mean, how did this all fall in place? You literally built this program up again from the mud and took it to the podium, really. Like,
A bunch of guys coming together, believing in an Italian, that he can bring the magic back at LSU. And the coaching staff putting the pieces together with the guys we had on the team. Like you said, there was 6 losing seasons, so they had to mix and match and put guys, change positions. And they did a really good job. Kudos to those guys, for finding the right combination of guys that first year and understanding, because they didn't know what they was getting into, but understanding who they had and
man. I mean, this just under, which leads me to the 1996 opener, my man. I mean, just the Houston game. This crazy wild comeback in the fourth quarter. You're down 20. You've fumbled it 3 times, Kevin, which I don't think you ever did in your entire career. Uh, like, I mean, what do you remember most about that wild night? You had your most yards ever, 360.
Everything leading up to the game. That's what I remember. Just the fact of being suspended early in the year for that game for something out of my control. Trying to fight to be able to play in that game, and then actually being able to play, finding out I'll be able to play about a week before the game, and then playing the game. The thing that actually matters, playing the game. And we didn't play well for 3 quarters at all. Um, Not sure what happened. We intended on to, but it didn't happen the first 3 quarters of that game. But then fourth quarter, we caught a little rally. The end of the third quarter, we caught a rally, and then from there, we just took over, and it just electrified the fans in Tiger Stadium, and it just one domino effect right there, gone.
Man, that's one thing you just brought up right there is the fan base back then. I mean, I'm just every time I talked to anyone who was there at the time at those games, they're just like, it was just loud from first, second to last. Like it was just deafening, like a biblical type of noise, like the day of the locusts or something. Like, I mean, it's just what type of intimidating atmosphere would that be to play in? Like, what was the most scared you saw an opponent?
I wasn't. I'm not gonna say the scaredness. I think it's just their effect that they had on the opposing team. Some of the traditions they had when the visitor buses would come in, they would throw cans at the buses. Just some crazy stuff. Beforehand, whenever we played, they would put the tiger in his cage right on the side of the visiting team's locker room for intimidation. Uh, Crazy thing is, back then there was only 75,000 people in the stadium, and they were loud. Now there's 102.
Man,
So 75 to 80,000 people in the stadium, and they were loud. So now there's 102. Just imagine. But the fan base is just awesome, just all around. Not like I said before, not just for football, basketball, baseball, gymnastics, golf, soccer. It's amazing to see this fan base travel. Actually went to the celebration last night, the baseball celebration last night, and it was awesome. It was like going to a game damn near. It
yeah,
was like going to a game.
there was 10,000 people there, wasn't it?
Right,
10,000.
right. Everywhere. People everywhere.
I mean, Kevin, there's a lot of your fingerprints are all over this. I mean, and really it goes back, in my opinion, like on a national level, I felt like that 1997 upset of number one Florida. They had a 25 game SEC winning streak coming in. They were defending national champs, of course. Steve Spurrier, of course, the 28.6 winning margin per game. I mean, and then they punted it to you in the first quarter and they just never mentally recovered. Um, I like to call it the Cedric Donaldson game, but you had a huge part in that game too. What do you think that game had? What type of impact that game had on like bringing the Magic back fully to
Uh,
LSU?
how we played as a team, and you just mentioned Cedric Donaldson with his 2 picks. Herb Tyler played with one of his best all-around games, and not just throwing the ball, but running the ball as well. And we knew that as an offense that we was going to need Herb to run the ball a little more than what the running backs do because they were going to be keen on that because that's something that we've done well. But it was just everybody. Special teams you mentioned. We had a few. You had a few good returns, special teams, a few down punts, in there. It was just an all-around good team effort, and we got our butt whipped the year before.
Well, it was a good revenge tour, though. I mean, but what really blows my mind about you, Kevin, though, is like, people are talking about all the on-field stuff, but you made sure you completed your LSU career like in the classroom. I mean, even though you were drafted and had the future in the NFL, long career, which I'm going to ask you a few questions about if you'll let me. You made sure to graduate though from LSU in '99 with your kinesiology degree. I mean, why was it so important for you to make sure you graduated and finished it?
Because I knew it was one of the most important things to my mom, that I get my degree. And I knew that I didn't know that I was going to have such a long career in the NFL. But I knew no matter what, I probably wasn't going to go back to get my degree. And it was so close for me getting it. It was just like, why not?
Man, indulge me with this play, Kevin. We got to put this play in the
Played well,
background.
though. His defense has held her.
I mean, that's the thing, though, is you went back, you got your degree, and that degree actually didn't that help you go on the fast track to getting your coaching certificate, right?
Right. Yes.
So I
Definitely.
mean,
So
it's
what
a
happened?
big advantage.
Yeah. That's probably one of my best. That was a pretty good catch.
That's one of my favorite catches right there. That Kentucky game, I believe it was 36-39 loss, something like that. Still one of my favorite games. Like, I mean, that game had a big impact on me, just the atmosphere of that at a very young age. Look, oh, you just mossed that, dude. That's some mossing right there. We can call it what it is, Kevin. That's some mossing right there.
Hey, I don't mind. That's my boy. That's one of my best friends.
I mean, now you go to the NFL. But you don't just go to the NFL. You go to the team that is about to be the dynasty for the next 2+ decades of the NFL, Kevin. You get a front row seat. I mean, how is, your first impressions of, Darth Vader, as they kind of call him, Bill Belichick? What did you feel about Bill Belichick when you first
Well,
arrived?
first, my Bill was the first head coach there. Pete Carroll was my head coach
Oh, that's right. That's right.
first year. And Pete was awesome. Pete was a player's coach. But that's at the time that's not what New England needed. New England needed somebody that was tough, hard nosed, that needed to get the players to play. Um, Now, one of the first things when I first got to New England, it was like, man, we just built a training room, locker room, LSU. Can I go back there? Because the stuff over here is not, no, that's not up to standards. Uh, that was the first thought, like, wow. And then Bill came in year two. Uh, you knew it was different, a whole lot different, very disciplinarian. But he reminded me of my middle school coach, to where he was, and I was always the type of person figure out who your head coach is, and get in line. Know what you got to do. And it was the same way with Bill, understanding what Bill wanted, understanding that he was a little detailed guy, and you had to know what your job was if you wanted to play for him.
Absolutely. I mean, you told one story actually one time, Kevin, where you're talking about how you had to even earn a hello in the hallway from Coach Belichick for like a few years or something.
Yeah, that's everybody though. You ain't gonna just get no hello from Bill. He's different now. Trust me, he's different now. But when he was first in there, just ask anybody that was there with Nick Saban. That's kind of the identical. They are like two in the pot, two peas in the pot.
I mean, well, they came from that same. I mean, they came from that same staff at Cleveland. They probably were just loving it, just watching each other coach. Like, that's how it's done, man. Yes, but I can't acknowledge that because that's not my style. But I mean, what's the biggest misconception though when it comes to Belichick?
I'm not gonna say he's soft, but he has when you're in a team setting, he has you. But when you sit down one on one and talk to him, no, I'm not saying like talking to him about football because he's go on and on and on and talk about football all day long, all day long.
I mean, he's a junkie. He's a
Oh, definitely. When you start talking about special team play, because that's where he started. That's where he started off at, and he'll start breaking it down to you, and you'll be like, "That's not what I really wanted from it." But hey, that's what it is.
Man, I bet he could talk about that Lawrence Taylor Giants defense for just forever and ever and ever, because that was a special, absolute special defense team that he was a part of. But
Before Tom Brady retired, Lawrence Taylor was the best player he's ever coached.
Sorry, what was that?
Before Tom Brady retired, Lawrence Taylor was the best player he's ever coached.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, and you could even argue maybe even still, when you look at
he said Tom.
I mean, some of what Lawrence Taylor did, some of the achievements, it's just freakish, especially in his day and age. But back then, you could actually, attack the quarterbacks with impunity. So
Right.
But
I guess when you win a coach about 6 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowls, he's gonna name you his favorite player, his best player he's ever coached.
Of course, but there's so many great players across the board. I mean, Terry Allen for once. You once thanked that guy, Terry Allen, for being a mentor for you as a rookie in New England.
Definitely, great guy, awesome guy.
He kind of coached you and taught you. Did you recognize kind of that? That's kind of something I might want to do and become future of my career.
Yeah, Terry was awesome. Terry was a great guy. Just how he, just like you said, tried to guide me through, show me, direct me. As a 20, 21-year-old, you got a hard head. you think you know everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, was Tom Brady like that? Was like your kind of your first impressions of Tom Brady when he came onto the team? You'd been there a few years.
Younger guy, fiery. You could tell that he had some leadership qualities to him. Bony. But like I said, you could tell he had some different leadership qualities about him. You would laugh at him at the beginning. I was only a second-year player when he came in his first year. And older guys would laugh at him because he would try to get order in the huddle. And the old offensive line would be like, yeah, whatever. But, he still demanded his respect in the huddle. And I think that's what they loved about. That's what they liked about it.
And I mean, when you go to these Super Bowls, you went to 5 Super Bowls. I mean, it just, for a second, Kevin, I thought I knew everything about you, but I had no clue you played on those extra 2 Super Bowl teams, the undefeated 07 team, and then the team in 2012, well, the near undefeated team. But 5 total Super Bowls. And your first was inside the Superdome at home in Louisiana, where you also won a state title for Carencro in that place. I mean, did you feel any deja vu on that game day?
Oh, of course, definitely. I got a pretty good record in the Superdome.
Yes.
Even as a coach. So, it's a good place.
Exactly. A national championship in there, as well as we can add to that with the 2019 team. And I mean,
that team there, I was happy to be a part of it. I was just along for the ride. I've seen that before.
I actually can prove, Kevin, that you weren't just a part of that for the ride, because Coach O hired you to, after some successful stints at your alma mater, Carencro, and now you're back at another alma mater, LSU. Coach O hires you to be the director of player development in 2018, right?
Right.
See, I mean, you had big time experience and an impact here on the start of this 2019 team. You weren't along for no ride.
No, I'm just talking about what you seen on the field. That was a ride.
Of course.
The player team. I was just like, I seen this already. I seen a team like that before.
Yeah.
My only thing that year was, when do I talk to them to tell them, hey, look, it's gonna come a point to where the pressure is really gonna come. Like,
Yes.
and it happened at the right time. You know, God does everything for a reason. I had a little talk with him. As far as like, you don't want to be the team that loses that game, especially if you're undefeated. They're gonna remember you more for losing that game.
So you're saying the pressure for that 2019 team kind of built and kind of you sensed it more in the players that you spoke with and kind of helped guide through that situation before the Clemson game?
I'm not gonna say that the pressure built, but the more and more you win through the course of your season and you don't lose, there is an automatic sense of pressure.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's not by the kids, even if it's not by the coaches, there is an automatic sense of pressure. There's pressure on the fans,
Yes.
you know, so there's an automatic sense of pressure. For me, it was just the time to when to talk to them about that. Don't let them have fun in playing like they were having fun. But there is a time where you got to talk to them. As far as, you know, you want to be that team. Remember, that was undefeated. You want to go out as a winner. You don't want to be the team that was remembered for losing that game.
I mean, absolutely not. That's so cool. I mean, the timing. That's a very interesting point. The timing. I didn't really think about that having such an impact on being a director of player development with that 2019 team, but I can see how it had everything to do with it. There's something that was kind of crazy that, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard you speak on the record about, but I think the only reason I'm asking you this question is more because I think people don't understand what happened in this situation and what you were doing, who you were defending, actually. The Cole Fisher thing, the A&M 2018 game. That little punk comes up, and I don't think people know about the Steve Cragthorpe involvement there, and what you
Right.
were doing to help him. Can you tell us about that situation?
I I just seen something happen. Didn't think you were right. Approached uh, Cole, whatever his name is. Just asked him, "Well, hey guy, what was you doing? That was messed up." And I get swung on twice.
Yeah,
As a person, as an individual, my natural reaction took over. I was
yeah.
always taught to defend myself, so it happened. I guess the right people seen, understood what happened, and it didn't go nowhere. But for me, it was a learning experience. It's one of those things, you know. Sometimes you go looking for what happened. You're gonna find out, and probably even more. And that's what happened. Have to understand, some people are going to be who they are. You just got to be careful and watch yourself.
Man, I know just from speaking and seeing so much of the stuff from LSU fans, they backed you. They knew what it was about. Steve Cragthorpe had Parkinson's, and it seemed like Cole Fisher, just from what I was told, Cole Fisher like pushed him or something. Steve Cragthorpe, and so you kind of went over there to defend your guy. I mean, that's just being a Tiger, my man, and that's from one Tiger to another. I mean, it just made us love you more. I mean,
That's just being a person. That's just being a good person. That's all.
true, true, true. That I mean, that 2019 season, though. I mean, you were a major part in helping that squad of Tigers, a group of a lot of future NFL stars and pros. Just like you said before, just with the timing of when you spoke to them. Um, what did you feel then about that team, those players, the staff, and have your feelings like changed with time, evolved?
About that 2019 team. Um,
Oh
Honestly
yeah,
speaking, I knew something was different about that team spring before the season. Um, we had just lost the bowl. Not lost the bowl game. We had won the bowl game, but in our eyes, it wasn't. We didn't play well. We won it, but we didn't play well. Came back, and it was like, wow, this is not the same team that was on that field about 3, 4 months ago, or about 2 months ago. This is a totally different team. This ball is being thrown around a whole lot, and that's when you started noticing, the development of the three receivers. I know that everybody talking about Jamar and Justin, but it was three: T.
Right.
Marshall, Jamar, and Justin. That was those three guys. And what they did in practice, how they brought the best out of the cornerbacks, the safeties, the linebackers in practice. It was amazing. It was awesome to see, just to see that team develop. To sit down in the offensive meeting rooms and watch the offensive coaches, come up with schemes to actually beat defenses. It was one of the specialist things because you knew what players you had, you knew what type of players you had, you knew who you had to go to certain spots, and it was just like, stay healthy. That's all you want them to do is stay healthy.
Just loaded though, man. Just loaded. I mean, there's so many seasons at LSU where it was almost like the problem was there were so many great players, and it was like who to play. And this 2019 team, it just felt like everything fell absolutely into place. But Joe Burrow is someone who absolutely fell into place and was the key to all of it. I mean, you won 3 Super Bowls with Tom Brady. A lot of people have asked you questions comparing the two, but you witnessed Brady's rise from the ground up as a Patriot. You witnessed Joe Burrow's rise. Both of these guys, both highly underrated, but both totally underestimated. Why do you think both Joe and Tom struggled to hit their apex for years before just becoming true legends?
Right time, right situation, right people on the team, right coach. Everything has to fit. Everything has to fall into place. It doesn't just happen overnight. Um, those two guys, though, their preparation has always got them where they are. Um, Even though Joe didn't play a whole lot at Ohio State, he was prepared to play the game, and that kept him into the game. That kept him aware. That didn't keep him from being being a bad football player and not figuring out what to do. He stayed into the game, understanding what, because he never knew what was going to happen. At Ohio State, he could have played any point in time. I think it just got to the point where he got tired of sitting back and waiting and look, I want to play.
Absolutely. Haskins is just one injury from Burrow going in, and who knows? There's so many different variables for that team that just kind of change. But you were mentioning this just a bit ago. Do you feel the contributions of Clyde are kind of overshadowed by Justin and Jamar from that 2019 team?
No, no, because if it wasn't for him, it was a full-headed monster. Because if it wasn't for him running the ball and understanding that, ain't catching the ball out of the backfield. There was a lot of things designed and designated for him to come out of the backfield and beat the linebacker one-on-one. Because we knew he could do it. Always, I I watched Clyde whenever Clyde was a senior in high school, and I had the opportunity to watch a lot of his film and his tape because a lot of teams that we played, Cancro, Cadillac High played the next week. I played the week before, so I had an opportunity to watch him, and I just loved his, how he played the game. People just think I was crazy when I first got to LSU. I was like, he has the little bounce in him like Barry Sanders. I'm not saying he's Barry Sanders, but he has that bounce in him.
It's the right profile. I get what you're saying. When people are like, "Oh, you're comparing him to Barry," it's like, no, no, no. I'm saying profile. I'm saying athletic kind of ability. We're not saying comparisons. I get exactly what you mean, and you know that Clyde's favorite running back is actually Barry Sanders. So that's kind of funny you say that.
And one of the first things that he told me when I first got there, he was like, "Hey, I need to learn how to pick up the blitz." I was like, "Oh, I'm your guy, buddy. I am your guy. That is me all day, every day." And we went straight to work. Went straight to work. And one of the most things, like I told him, picking up the blitz is all a mind thing. Uh, you're not, as long as you're not scared, you're gonna get it. It's just getting the techniques down. You gotta do it every day, every day. And number one, you gotta block them with your feet first, and
Oh
then
yeah,
so he understood. He took on. I remember saying, I said, "You're gonna have that one time where you're gonna be in the hole and it's gonna be you and the linebacker and you're gonna hit him and you're gonna stun him and you're gonna be like, I got it. Sure enough, I say about 2 months. 2 months and I forgot what year it was. They in practice. Him and Devin met up in the hole and he hit Devin and they just stood each other up and it was like in the middle of the play, he turned and looked at me. I got it. So, that's some of the things, as a coach, you love, thinking about the guys learning, getting it, understanding it.
So you had a big part to do with their development, that 2019 group of running backs. I mean, they were loaded, and that's
I love that aspect of what I was doing 18 and 19, the player development aspect. Not saying I don't like coaching, but that aspect of being around the guys on campus, being able to go check on them at class, make sure they're all right, go and check study hall, make sure they're in study hall. That I love that aspect of it because it was more than football. It was a bigger relationship than football with the guys. And then when I started coaching, some of the guys were like, Coach, man, we miss you on in the quad today. We miss you on campus. I was like, yeah, I know, man. I ain't gonna be able to get out there no more like talking about it. Not like I used to.
I mean, that's just what I've always heard about you from some of these guys. Like Ty Davis Price, I was pretty tight with him, his family. They just absolutely loved you. And it was saying that it was a lot more than just being a running backs coach, which is the job you would take next. I mean, Coach O hired you in 2020, soon after that title game for the running backs coach gig. And I remember in your introductory press conference, he called you a future head coach. I mean, was it a dream job to be the running backs coach at LSU for you?
Well, I've always known that I was going to coach ever since I graduated high school. Not sure what level. Once I got the call to come and coach at Carencro, it was always that thing like, well, if I coach at Carencro, well, I'll coach at LSU. Well, if I coach at LSU, then I'll coach at New England. So it was one of those things like, if I get the running back job, yes, I'm definitely there. But it was in the making, understandable, just paying attention, knowing what was going on around, and knowing the law of the land.
I mean, this is you recruiting for the first time, Kevin. I mean, were there a lot of kids who knew you and your history and your reputation?
Yeah, no. Some kids pretty much didn't know who the hell I was because I wasn't that guy that like, hey, I'm Kevin Falk. I played running back 13 years in the NFL for the New England Patriots. No, it wasn't me. I want you to know who I am as a person. I want you to hear me talk and understand who I am, what I like. I want to figure you guys out. I want to figure your parents out. Then we can go from there. It took a while for Corey Connor to actually know who I was. His dad actually had to tell him, like, hey, Corey, do you know who's recruiting you? And he was like, nah. Go Google like you always do. His dad told him. He went Google and he was like, wow. So, it was one of them. But it was after a while that I had been talking to the kid that the kid really didn't know.
That's hilarious because, I mean, Corey, he was working with Spencer Ware, another Tiger running back from Ohio. I mean, like, that's funny. He had no idea, but that's great recruiting from you, though. You weren't like leading with, "Hey, I've got all these Super Bowl rings." I mean,
No.
it's always so like tacky, but like it's so rare for a guy recruiting a position to have 3 Super Bowl rings in the first place. But it was always something that blew my mind that I always wanted to ask you about. Is I wonder how he recruits with that aspect. But I mean, those 2 seasons. Oh, sorry, did I cut you off?
Good.
Sorry, Kevin, what were you saying?
I said you was good.
Well, I mean, those 2 seasons, 2020 and 2021, were some of the most like troubling for LSU, like at 500 and then below in 2021, under 500, and Coach O fired, the Title IX scandal, players kind of coming in and out of the portal. It was a wild time. And what was that period of time like for you? I mean, you're just your first and second years of your job.
Well, the first year it was tough, just coming off of national championship, trying to get back in the form. You got guys that never played a whole bunch of football before. You just trying to get them into the groove. And no matter what goes on, you have to keep pushing forward. No matter how it goes, you have to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. I mean, but still at the same time, it just seemed like it was one piece of bad news coming after another with those two teams, and it just seemed like once Brian Kelly took over, there was a chance to kind of breathe for a second. We don't know what Brian Kelly will do with it with his regime, with his career at LSU, but 2020, 2021, I think the pandemic just made everything start off on a bad start. I mean, how was that dealing with the pandemic, your first year recruiting as well?
It cut my recruiting short for sure. I think my wife is probably happy about that aspect of it. I didn't get the chance to go on the road as much as I was supposed to, but that was okay. The recruiting part is awesome. I actually love the recruiting aspect of it and getting to know new people, building relationships with new people. I love that aspect. Which that's the part of that you love the most. Connecting,
I mean,
connecting.
I'm sure there you still probably text some of these guys too, though.
Oh, definitely. Had a long lasting relationship with Logan Diggs while he was at Notre Dame, while uh, it doesn't just go away. Trevante Citizen, who's at Miami, still talk to him. Trevor Etienne at Florida, still talk to him. It's just doesn't go away. Corey,
Man,
still talk to Corey Connor.
I love Corey Kiner. I still talk to Deneen as well as mom. Corey, it looked like he was doing pretty well at Cincinnati last year, and then
Right, right.
seemed like he was scoring like a touchdown a game almost or something like that. But Kevin, there was some mystery as to how things ended for you as the team's running backs coach and what kind of transpired once Brian Kelly took over the program. Did you interview for that running backs coach job in late November, December?
No, there was not. Look, there was no interview process, but hey, sometimes when people come in brand new, they want to clean house. And if you do your due diligence and do your research on Brian Kelly, that's who he is. He cleans house. When I mean clean house, he cleans house. It's unfortunate, uh, but it took me a long time to get to this point to where it's like, wow, okay, I really did get canned. But that's life. You gotta understand it, deal with it. Look, the most important thing for me is those kids being successful. It don't matter who's at the ring. Just as long as they're successful and they understand that it's it's going to be different than it was with and you have to be able to adapt to that. And that's one of the messages we try to get to the kids. That's life. You're gonna come to a lot of crossroads in life that you're probably not ready for, but you're gonna have to be ready for it, no matter how it goes. And that's how I look at that situation. Even though, look, I'm a lifer there. Don't make me none. I'm gonna be at LSU long when they're gone. They're not gonna be there, you know, 10, 15 years from now. I'm gonna be there long before they're gone. So I'm cool with that. I understand that. Does it hurt? Yes, it does hurt. It hurt me to the core. But I gotta find new ways, new avenues to try to get my way back where I am. And that's what I've been doing.
Man, I mean, you had a huge impact though on some of these guys like Ty Davis Price, who set the single game rushing record before he left, and it was a third round pick for the 49ers. I mean, and there's still guys on that roster who you coach. Josh Williams, John Emery Jr., I believe Armani Goodwin as well. I mean, Trey
Armani,
Bradford.
Trey Bradford. I know Noah Kane. We recruited Noah. Um, but that's still in that still time. Still talk to a lot of those guys. The freshmen. You can't forget about Caleb Jackson and Trey Holland, who I've been recruiting them for a while. It was for me. That was like only We just got to not recruit them if we don't want them to come because they coming to LSU. That's how I felt about Trey Holland and Caleb Jackson.
And that was actually what I was going to ask you next, Kevin, because I really was interested to hear what you thought of this current 2023 running backs room under Frank Wilson and what they could be capable of and who's catching your eye. And you just mentioned two of them.
Well, they got a deep running back room right now. Maybe 7 or 8 scholarship players, something like that. But that's what you need. Build a competition. Like I said earlier, build your competition. Those guys have to understand if you want to play, you every little detail has to be covered, and you have to understand everything that's going on around you.
I mean, they're so deep. They're ridiculously deep. They have got 4 different running backs, Kevin, who rushed for at least 5 touchdowns last year. I mean, that's just. I mean, they ran the ball a lot last year. But something that's really interesting to me, Kevin, that kind of something I really wanted to ask you about. Only just a few more questions here, and you've been so generous with your time. When I was growing up, guys such as yourself and Walter Payton, I know your hero, Barry Sanders, Marshall Falk, Adrian Peterson, etc. upon etc. You guys were the rock stars of the league and college, kind of sacred to the foundation of team success. This is kind of a two-parter, but why do more offensive coordinators minimize the running back position instead of like revolutionizing it? And what's the future for the running back position?
Don't look bright, I tell you that much. Only thing I can see is, and it ain't the offensive coordinators because they can't make no decisions about if they're gonna keep a player or not. It's one of those things for them where they have to listen to what the general manager's telling them and what they got to do. But the running back, the reason why is because how much they're being used. The wear and tear on the running back. You got to be careful how much you put on that running back.
Absolutely. I mean that's the thing that seems like what's going on, but it's kind of strange. There's a lot of guys posting some stuff about having to retire or quit the game because of their place, and it's just very strange. But just 2 more questions for you, Kevin. Your close cousin Sage Ryan is in contention for a starting job at LSU this season. Now entering his 3rd year, what is it like to have your family following in your footsteps as a Tiger?
Oh, it's always exciting. To have someone in your family that's going to LSU, going to school in general, and trying to follow that dream that he has. For Sage, he's right there. I know there's a lot of people that's kind of like down on him because he's in his 3rd year and he hasn't really shown nothing. But that's the thing about college football. You never know. They have other guys on the team too that they recruited, and you got to figure it out. And it's more to just playing the game on the football field.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is Sage just seems to be putting it all together, though. I mean, last year there was some tough moments, and then he had some huge moments, creating plays all over the place. So I mean, kind of putting it all together. But what's next for Kevin Faulk? I mean, you coached at both alma maters. I heard you were coaching for the Giants this last fall with Saquon Barkley.
I was there for training camp. I was there for about a month. Had a really good experience. It was an awesome experience. Got a chance to connect with a bunch of good group of guys, the coaching staff, as well as the running backs out there. And what it let me know was I'm a football coach. That's all that experience let me know. And we'll see what happens. Right now, nothing is shaking. Nothing really happening, but we'll figure it out. God has a plan for me.
Kevin, I really hope you get another shot back on the LSU staff. Really, you are, when I think of LSU, you're the first Tiger I think of. You are literally the first Tiger I saw on TV. And really the reason I became a Tiger from outside the state of Louisiana. Thank you so much for setting me on that path of the right way of being an LSU fan. And, man, thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight.
No problem.
Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
Unbelievable. Maybe we took a bit too long there with Kevin Falk. We took over 1 hour and 10 minutes of the man's time. Incredible. I can't believe that we got that to talk to him. That was awesome. I hope you all enjoyed that. Have a great weekend. Buckle up. LSU just seemed to be winning one championship after another right now in every sport. And so what sports next? Do up next? That's college football for LSU. A lot of prospects looking good for this team, and you know, Kevin Falk said it. Really deep running back room will be a part of it. Wow, that was really cool to do. Really special. Sorry, apologize for the like 5-minute technical difficulty snafu there for a little bit there. I think it was we were opening too many windows and it was causing the Wi-Fi to kind of crash for him. But seriously, thank you so much for watching. Have a good rest of your night and go Tigers.